This is The Great Expanse by John Bab 426, and yes, you clicked on the thumbnail. You know what this video is about. X-Men 97, Episode 3, Fire Made Flesh. I'm going to tell you this right now. X-Men 97 is cooking on all cylinders. They're exploring different avenues and different story arcs of the X-Men that aren't too popular. Now, I've watched people react to the episode after I watched the episode so I can form my own opinions, you know what I mean? And a lot of people did not know at the end of the previous episode who the lady was that looked just like Jean Grey when she came to the door. That was Scott Summers' first wife, Madeline Pryor, who was a clone created by Mr. Sinister. You can see I'm getting right into it, right? Who was created by Mr. Sinister, okay? And as soon as she arrived, I said, that's Madeline Pryor. And I don't think we've had any sort of iteration of Madeline Pryor in any form. In any of the 3 X-Men cartoons that I can think of. X-Men animated series, I don't believe they had anything about Madeline Pryor. X-Men Evolution had nothing about Madeline Pryor. And Wolverine and the X-Men had nothing, even mentioning her name, Madeline Pryor. We know that Cyclops and Madeline Pryor have a son named Nathan Christopher Summers. The child is whisked away to the future. He becomes Cable, one of my favorite X-Men. If you don't believe me, you can watch my videos about my top 10 X-Men. Okay, Cable is near the top. I think it was number 3 or something. But this episode, the animation was beautiful. Yes, this is a retort, a retelling, a recall, a rebuttal, a whatever. Okay, a review. But I'm just so happy. I'm so satisfied with every episode. Okay. There was a questionable scene. Okay. And again, I'm jumping all over the place. There's really no A to B. I'm kind of going from J to L to X to B to E to F. Okay. So forgive me. Just stick with me. I hope you watched it. I really hope you did because it's so well done. It's so well done. Rehire Bo DeMaio. Rehire him unless he did something salacious. Okay, if he did something like underage, any kind of whatever, no matter how good X-Men 97 is. But if it's not, if it's just something political, rehire Bo DeMaio. Rehire Bo DeMaio. But anyway, there's a little bit of controversy in this one. Now, Madeline Pryor, under the influence of Mr. Sinister, who created her, who said that every cell he had ownership of because she's a genetic clone of Scott Summers and Jean Grey. Okay? When could this have happened? It could have happened in the 4-part, there's a 4-episode arc called Beyond Good and Evil, which was originally supposed to be the finale of the series. Okay? But there were other episodes added, and there was a whole nother season added, season 5. Okay? Beyond Good and Evil, Apocalypse orchestrated the kidnapping of all the major psychic beings in the Marvel Universe, or the X-Men animated series universe, okay? We saw Mesmero, not by name. We saw Strife. We saw Psylocke, Professor X, Jean Grey. A whole bunch of other psychics, okay, were kidnapped by Apocalypse. In that time, perhaps that's when Mrs. Sinister could have, gathered her DNA and orchestrated this cloning of her. There's also the major story arc of season 2 where Mr. Sinister kidnapped Scott Summers and Jean Grey, okay? Maybe when she was in his custody, that's when he did this. It's a possibility, okay? I don't know that for a fact, okay? I don't know where the story's going to go with that. So it is possible that there are moments in the original animated series of the X-Men where Jean Grey was in the custody as a prisoner of Mr. Sinister. So the clone of Jean Grey, I'm just calling her Madeline Pryor so I don't have to keep saying the clone of Jean Grey. Madeline Pryor has reality warping powers. She's almost like Proteus. And maybe I'll get into the Proteus saga on a different video. Okay, so she can alter reality. Okay, it's not just your perception of reality, but reality. We're talking about bending reality, kind of like the Scarlet Witch can do. Okay, but in one scene, Morph hears somebody in the showers. He walks in. He says, "Gambit, is that you?" I don't know why he immediately said Gambit, but anyway, he goes into the door of the shower. Wolverine is in the shower, taking an actual shower. And Morph has a reaction. An arousing reaction. No, they don't show anything. Okay, not that kind of arousing. But you can tell that he was kind of excited. All right. And there's a possibility that this was an indication that Morph has those kind of desires for Wolverine. So this is I don't want to say blatant, but this is like an overt gay element. All right, and we've never seen that in X-Men before in the cartoons. Okay, so a spot of controversy because it's kind of overt. You know what I mean? Like he formed Wolverine's arm, popped his claws, and said, "Let me get those hard to reach places." Was he playing according to the script, or was it just an actual desire of his, an indulgence? Who knows? All right. So again, a spot of controversy. The animation in this episode was so good. There are sequences where the clone, I gotta call her the clone of Jean Grey because of the sequence of animation, where the clone of Jean Grey, she transforms her outfit into that of the Goblin Queen, the traditional Goblin Queen. That's what Madeline Pryor is called. The colors are on point. The animation is just so on point. And I just love the fact that Scott Summers is at the forefront of these first 3 episodes. Because Scott Summers was done so wrong for 20 years. Fox had Scott Summers for 20 years and they did him so dirty. The leader of the X-Men in X-Men 3, The Last Stand, which is one of my least favorite X-Men movies, was killed off camera. Can you believe that? Scott Summers was killed off camera and we didn't see James Marsden anymore. All we saw was his ruby quartz, visor, glasses, or whatever, floating around in the air. Now, we know James Marsden, he took the role of Richard somebody in Superman Returns, okay? He played the husband of Lois Lane, so that's why he wasn't in that movie much. But you did that to Scott Summers, Fox? Shame on you! So I love the fact that he's at the forefront. He is the leader. He's saying, we're doing this. And there's no pushback, really. Even though Wolverine always throws out those little comments. But Wolverine goes along because Wolverine respects Scott Summers, the man. Even if he can't stand him personally. You know what I mean? Sometimes people just don't get along. So I really love that there were sort of storylines continuing from the previous episode. Gambit, Morph, and Wolverine, they go to the danger room. No, they finish a sequence in a session in the danger room. And then they say, they have Morph look at the log, and it says, I wonder who has it next. And it says, Rogue and Magneto. Now, Gambit saw Rogue leave Charles Xavier's office last episode, and he was looking, and he's like, you know what I mean? Because Magneto was in there, you know, and Rogue always had a thing for Magneto when he first joined the X-Men. So there's a hint of jealousy inside of a Gambit, or a bit of bitterness. So then he sees an effigy of like half-dressed Rogue and half-dressed Magneto, like canoodling, and they're like growing into each other. The reality warping, the animation is done so excellently. I can't stress that. But again, like I was saying, I love how they're not leaving any threads sort of unraveled. I forgot the term, but whatever. Like, that's a continuation from last episode. So we're not just throwing all this at you at once, but there's still tie-ins from previous episodes. Okay, so it's a story arc. Am I ghosting? All right. Anyway, so I really appreciated this episode. I like the dialogue. Let's get to a bit of a con about the episode. Okay, let me grade it right now. A. This gets an A. Okay, this was an awesome. Every episode has been an A to me so far. Okay, so nitpick, or maybe it's not a nitpick, but I think it's called the Inferno Saga. Okay, you'll see something on over one of my shoulders about what it's actually called. But there was an Inferno Saga with the Goblin Queen Madeline Pryor, and I believe she's like summoned all these creatures because she has reality warping powers. And they were like just attacking New York City or something like that. Okay. Again, you'll get clarity when this video is in post production. Okay. But it was a crossover event in the comic books. It involved the X-Men, and I believe it involved the Avengers. So this was a big deal. This was a big storyline. It was a big moment. Okay. So for them to just sort of like squeeze it into one episode, I have an issue with that. I do. Now, am I saying that we've seen the last of Madeline Pryor? No. But it feels like the whole Inferno thing was kind of just like compressed into this one episode. That's how it feels. All right. And they also kind of hint at the whole Hope Summers M-Day storyline. Now, instead of Cable who was in the comic books protecting the only mutant born after M-Day, who was named Hope Summers. He took her into the future to help protect her, okay? But in this iteration, Bishop is the one that takes Nathan Charles Summers, the son of Scott Summers and Madeline Pryor, into the future. So I was kind of like, dang. So we're not getting the Apocalypse X Factor 68, the first edition of X Factor, the first iteration of X Factor in the cartoon. And I really, Apocalypse is one of my favorite X-Men villains. So we're going to do a video, top 10 X-Men villains, according to John Bat 426, okay? That'll be later. But I really wanted to see the Apocalypse issue played out in the cartoon. But instead, we went the Mr. Sinister route, because Apocalypse infected Nathan Christopher Summers with the techno-organic virus. And the Clan Ascandi came from the 31st century and took Nathan's Christopher Summers into the future, where he would be loved and he would be raised as a messiah to destroy Apocalypse. Okay, who's this totalitarian leader, this tyrant in the future. Okay, this time around, Mr. Sinister is the one who infected Nathan Charles Summers with the techno-organic virus. So all this stuff is just so comic accurate. They're just pulling from different stories, but it's still comic accurate. It's still true to the essence of X-Men. You know, see what I'm saying? So when they defeat Mr. Sinister, Madeline Pryor, she and Jean Grey go on like a psychic quest, and she sort of like renounces the angst and the hatred. She renounces the ownership of Mr. Sinister. Like, those diamonds that Mr. Sinister has, it kind of emerged from her forehead and she destroyed it. So they all teamed up, Madeline Pryor, Scott Summers, and the X-Men, to defeat Mr. Sinister. And they rescued Nathan Charles Summers, because Madeline Pryor is still the mother of the child. Okay? So when they bring Nathan Charles back to the X-Mansion, Beast says there's nothing we can do about the techno-organic virus. As soon as he said that, I said, okay, he's got to go to the future. And earlier in the episode, Bishop, who was still displaced, like he shouldn't be there, he should be in his own time. He asked Beast what was the status of his time band. Okay, so we're still continuing that thread from earlier in the episode. So all the episode threads congeal into this one point, okay? And he said, Beast tells Bishop, you have enough juice for just you and the baby. Now, one thing I like is that Scott Summers did not go along with this plan. I like that. Now, strategically, tactically, yes, he should have gone with the plan, because it was the only one that made sense, because the baby probably would have died. Or been this like hideously deformed, like metallic creature. All right. But being the father he was, he said, I will not abandon him the way my father abandoned me. I think he said us, including him and Alex. Okay. Now we know Scott Summers' father is Corsair from the Starjammers. Scott Summers did not know that for a long time in the comics. Okay. Even after they met Corsair, Jean Grey was like, Corsair said to Jean Grey, don't tell Scott. All right. So Scott said, I will not abandon my child. He says, I cannot go along with this plan, and he walked out. I thought that was great. Now, when Bishop leaves with Nathan Charles Summers into the future, it goes back to Scott Summers. He and Jean Grey are at odds over this. They're standing. Now, there's a wide shot of, I think maybe it was their bedroom. The furniture is in shambles, but it's only a representation of their relationship. Scott's and Jean's. They're standing this far apart. If the frame of this picture, okay, was the room they were standing in, they were standing on the opposite ends of each other. They were not making any moves towards each other. So it's going to show you there's going to be a little bit of friction here between Scott and Jean because of this decision. Was it the right decision? I don't know. I don't know if I could give up my child. I might just say, let's go have another one if the child didn't survive, all right? But that was the decision that was made. It's a very comic book accurate. Is it ethnically correct? Not ethnically, but is it ethically? Let's try it again. Is it ethically correct to send your child into the future so he can live out his life when you yourself don't want him to feel abandoned? Because the kid can still grow up and go, hey, Bishop, you're not my dad. Or Forge, who Bishop referenced in the future, be like, wait, you're not my dad. He could still feel that sort of abandonment when he becomes of age. But again, this episode was just so... This might be my favorite episode so far of the 3, even though the last one was really good. Mutant Liberation begins with Magneto showing off his powers. I just love the X-Men. They're my favorite group. This cartoon is so well done. Is it for children? No. It is not for children. All right? But it's not so racy that maybe an older child can't enjoy it. All right? So let's bring it to a close, all right? Because I can go on about who the child grows up to become and the status of the techno-organic virus and just go along so many different comic book, tangents, but I won't do that. I'll try to bring it to a close now. If you like the video, hit the like button, okay? No one breath challenge, all right? Share the video, write a comment or dissertation if you need to in the comment section, which is down there, all right? Do your part and I'll do my part. So The Great Expanse by John Bat 426 can and will X, because of X-Men, expand. It's in the name.